Hello everyone, welcome back again to my channel. Thanks for clicking on this video. I hope you're doing well. So as you can see, we are going to, in this episode, we are going to continue talking about teaching vocabulary. So in the previous episode, if you have not watched it, you can go back again to it and watch it. So it has to do with the ways to present vocabulary. So we have seen something like 5 ways to present vocabulary, and we talked about concepts checking as a way to assess students' learning and whether a student learned, remember, understood the words or not. Okay, so in this episode we are not going to talk about ways of presenting, but we are going to talk about stages or steps we go through to teach vocabulary. So today we are going to see, as I said, stages, okay, to follow to teach vocabulary. Now, before we start talking about these stages that we are going to see, when we talk about teaching vocabulary, we talk about vocabulary. Vocabulary can either be something like words, for example, okay, words, single words. They can also be something like collocations, all right. Okay, so words, collocations. When we talk about vocabulary, we can also teach something like word formation, for example. And when I say word formation, the use of suffixes or prefixes, we can also talk about words, association, categorizing, etc. So this is what we can teach as far as vocabulary is concerned, all right? So words or collocations, or the words formation, or words categorizing, etc. Okay, so when we talk about the stages of teaching vocabulary, the first stage is what we saw last time, which is presenting. So this is number 1, so we can consider it as presenting, okay? So you present vocabulary, so you present, as I said, using pictures, for example, or using realia, for instance. Realia, you can also use perhaps body language, or better, the context, etc. Okay, so when I say context, it can be dialogue, it can be sentences, it can be also short text. So this is a way to present vocabulary. Now, when you present vocabulary, I said using these ways. And by the way, when you use pictures to present vocabulary and reality, for sure, you write them on the board. Okay, so you can write them, present them in the form of, for example, a diagram or a chart. Now, the second stage is what we can consider as noticing. All right, so students notice. They notice and they observe what? They notice, for example, the form of the word, the form, okay, the form of the word. What is it? Is it a single word? Is it a compound, for example, word? It contains 2 words. Is it a collocation, for example, or is it a word with a suffix or prefix? So students notice the form. Notices the form. When we talk about the form, we can also talk about the spelling of the word, okay? The spelling of the word. How is it spelled? The learners can also notice the pronunciation, okay? The pronunciation of the word, okay, the pronunciation of the word. So this is what the learner can notice. Not only this, the learner can also notice the meaning of the word, okay, the meaning of the word based on the picture you are showing, or the reality, or the context. So this is what learners notice, okay? The second, or the next stage, we can call hypothesizing. Number 3, hypothesizing. Now, what you do here is you give learners, for example, a list of words, okay, a list of words that you did not mention here in presenting. So students can do what? For sure, they can either analyze the words, they can analyze these words, they can guess the meaning of the words, okay? And when I say analyze the word, which means they analyze it, for example, is it a verb? Is it a noun? Is it a collocation? What is the first part, second part? What is the prefix? What is the suffix? So this is the question that student answers in his mind. This is what you mean by analyze it. So the student, can also guess the meaning. They guess the meaning of the word, right? The learner can also complete sentences. Can also complete the sentences with these words or list of words you gave them, okay? So this is stage number 3, which is hypothesizing. And as I said before, this stage can be skipped, and it depends on the kind or the topic you are teaching or the kind of vocabulary you are teaching. So you can use it. For some, you cannot use it. For example, if you are using or teaching collocations, it's good to use this stage. And word formation also, it's good, but single words, I don't think that this stage you can keep it. So this one can be skipped when it comes to single words. Otherwise, you can use it. Why not? Okay. Number 4, stage number 4, we can consider it as concept checking. So concept checking, as I said before, it is a way of assessment. Okay, it is a way of assessment to assess whether student learned something or not. It is a way to check whether learners still remember what you taught or not. And this is something that you can do by, for example, asking questions. For example, you can use questions, you ask student questions, and if you see that student answer the question, this means that learners still remember. And you can also ask learners to give examples, also completing sentences, a way to concept check. Also to re-show them the pictures and see whether they still remember that or not. The last phase or the last stage is what we call experimenting. Okay, experimenting, this is number 5. And in experimenting, you can, for example, you can show them different pictures or different realia and see whether students can get what that pictures or realia mean. You can give them also a different context. For example, you can give them a text or a dialogue and ask students to underline the words belong to the same category you are teaching. You ask them to underline collocations, for instance, etc. So this is what you can do. So you provide them with another maybe material, different pictures, different text, different dialogue, etc. And students work on that text or maybe dialogue or whatever. This is something that you can do in a form of, for example, groups, okay, or pairs, for instance. You can use some kind of games or activities. So this is what we do in experimenting. So experimenting is the last phase, okay? So these are the most common phases that we can go through to teach vocabulary, presenting, noticing, hypothesizing, concept checking, and experimenting. If you have any question related to any of these stages, you're welcome. If you have any suggestion, don't hesitate to let me know. If you have any comment, don't hesitate to share it. See you in another episode with another lesson. Have a good time and goodbye.